What about lying? This is one of the most things people are most interested in is how to. Everyone wants to spot a liar. It's funny because like the rest of our conversation, one could infer that is how to like be a liar. I'm joking. I'm not saying. No, but it is. It's like how to show up in a certain way to get success in a certain context, whether it's dating or work or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we want to figure out if someone's playing us. Is it possible to spot a liar?
Most people can only spot a lie with 54% accuracy. They've actually studied the average person is very bad. You're better off tossing a coin. Yeah. 54% accuracy. We are very bad at spotting liars. And this is important to know about yourself, is we should not overestimate our ability to spot lies. We are usually not good at it. So it is very important to give someone the benefit of the doubt because you don't know. It's very hard to spot. It is possible. There are certain statistical cues to deceit. There are cues that over and over again research find liars typically do, but not always. Like there's no Pinocchio's nose. There's no one cue that means someone is lying. But there are a couple cues that come up over and over again. One we already talked about, the question inflection. It's very suspicious if someone is speaking and all of a sudden they ask a question. If they're not actually asking a question, right? Like if all of a sudden you hear the question inflection used on a statement or a number or a boundary or a timeline, that's when I'm like, let's double click on that for a second and talk about that budget. So you mentioned the number was 500,000. Where does that number come from? Let's talk about more. And I want to hear if I'm going to hear it again.
Interesting.
So that's a double click for me. That's like, let's make sure that I heard that right. Let's make sure that you feel confident about it. Where does that come from? So that's just a little red flag that says dive deeper. Nothing is a sign of lying. It's just a sign that you should dig deeper. So question inflection. A volume drop is another vocal cue of deception. So when we're anxious or nervous, we will lose volume and we lose breath. So if you hear someone who's speaking, I hear this a lot in sales calls, so someone will, I always know what part of a sales presentation makes my entrepreneurs the most nervous because they lose volume during that part of their presentation. So it sounds like this. So let's move on to our team. So our founding partners are me, myself, Joe, Jimmy, and we all met at NYU. And we're going to now talk about, like I'm making it obvious for you, but if you're listening for it, you'll hear where someone is like, they literally lost fuel. They literally lost breath. So a sudden drop in volume is a very interesting cue to like double click, like what just happened there? How do you feel about your co-founder? How long have you known each other? Anything we should know about that? How's the relationship? How do you fight? How do you communicate? Right? Like that's where I would aim most of my investor questions if I was hearing that volume drop on that specific area. That's vocal. Nonverbal. So nonverbal, what you're looking for is incongruencies, where the verbal does not match the body. The biggest and most obvious one is when someone says yes, but shakes their head no, or says no, but shakes their head yes. So I might say to my daughter, "Did you clean your room?" Yeah, I did. She's shaking her head no. In Western cultures, so there's a cultural exception to this one, India, Bulgaria, and Pakistan, they nod a little bit differently. The research actually shows that. But in countries outside of India, Bulgaria, and Pakistan, when we agree with someone, say yes, or telling the truth, we typically agree with ourselves and shake our heads yes. Mm-hmm. When we don't agree or don't like something, we'll often shake our heads no. We can sometimes also do this in disbelief, like, wow, I cannot believe that just happened. So I'm always looking for incongruent nods. This happens a lot if you ask someone, do you like the new girl? Yeah, she's great. Right? You see that.
100%, yeah.
All the time. Yeah. And people, they don't realize they're doing it, but they're shaking their head no. They do not like that person. You'll also see this with mismatched facial expressions. And the biggest one for liars, the research finds, is disgust. So disgust is an expression that people make without even realizing it. And this is across cultures. When we don't like something or when we smell something bad, we crinkle our nose up and we flash the upper whites of our teeth and we go, ugh, that. So you'll notice that liars typically feel dirty when they lie. So oftentimes they'll show disgust with themselves for lying. So you'll ask someone, so what do you think of the proposal? Yeah, it's really good. And they might even sniff.
Really?
Yeah.
What's a sniff? What does it signal?
Oh, it's a disgust activator. Like when we are disgusted, our nasal cavities want to close because we want to take in less of it. And so even though it's not about food, it's about a preference. Liars will often show a little bit of disgust when they are lying because they are like a little bit disgusted with themselves. And so you'll see this activation here. By the way, no one does that naturally. Like, right, this is a very unnatural way to hold my face, but we do it when we feel disgusted. It's the nasal cavities. When we nasal dilate, our nasal wings dilate, that's what it's called. Like these nasal wings dilate and we begin to scrunch them up. It's like don't like what we're seeing, smelling, hearing. So what I will do is I will share a proposal to someone. I will talk about something and I watch for any disgust. So I'll say, here's the plan for 2025. Here's what we're going to do. And if I see I know that team member or that person is like not that into it. And that's when I double click. Any questions? How do you feel? Steven, do you like this idea?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, no. Horrible. Horrible.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.